So let me ask you sort of a challenging question of pros and cons. Can you give me pros and cons of each? What's the biggest strength and biggest limitation of, let's say, Biden?
This is a tough question. I've known President Biden for a lot of years. Um, I knew his son Bo, who served in the National Guard the same time that I did. Um, I consider Joe Biden a friend. He is someone over the years that I've talked to and shared laughs with and spent time with in different situations. The positive characteristics that drew me to Joe Biden of the past, they are not represented in how he has led as president. And, I'll let the pundits theorize as to how that is or why that is. But the truth that I know exists, which points to his weakness, is that um, instead of listening to his better angels, he has instead at every turn. If you go back and I look back to his inauguration speech where he promised to be a president for all Americans, and during his campaign promised to be the uniter in chief, to bring a country together that was deeply divided. That's the Joe Biden that I've known for many years. A guy who has worked with different people with different backgrounds and different political views, but tried to find at different points in time a way to work together. At every turn, he has done the exact opposite of what he spoke about during his inauguration speech, and has left us as the American people today more divided, less secure, both from an economic standpoint as well as a national security or a safety and security standpoint, and less free as a society and as a people.
So the biggest criticism would be he divided us or continued the division that's been there. Who do you be the greatest uniter? Like, to me, over the past few decades, to me, Obama. You've been very critical of Obama on the foreign policy side
Mhm.
on many fronts, but to me, that guy did really good. Maybe some people say just rhetoric, but I think rhetoric matters when you're president. I think he was out of all the presidents we had, is probably the most effective uniter of the people. Would that be fair to say?
During his 2008 campaign, um, yes, I think that his message resonated with so many people across generations and across, different views, different backgrounds, to where, people cried on the night that he was elected because they felt so hopeful. Um, I talk to people, and I know people who set aside their entire lives to work on his campaign, to be a part of this hope and change mission that he laid out, that would bring us together. Uh, some of the people that I know personally, they gave up their lives during the campaign, and after he won, they went to Washington D.C. Because they wanted to be able to do the work that he had laid out, and continue to be a part of this mission that they expected would extend beyond the campaign. And they've expressed to me personally how heartbroken they were, because so quickly after he was elected, instead of bringing in a new generation of fresh leadership that was not a part of the Washington establishment, he instead immediately chose to surround himself with people who were more of the same old, who were essentially part of the problem. And many of his actions after that um, proved that fear and that brokenheartedness that they felt to be true. And I'll mention one example related to civil liberties that we talked about. He was someone, as a U.S. senator, who gave some pretty powerful speeches on the Senate floor about his concerns with the Patriot Act, his concerns with surveillance from the NSA, his concerns with a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights and civil liberties. But when, as president, he was confronted with leaked information about this surveillance occurring under those authorities in his presidency, he took the side of the national security state and did not take action to right the wrongs that he correctly pointed out as senator and during his campaign for the presidency, which is unfortunate because he really did build this unifying momentum throughout his campaign.
What do you think that is? Why is it so hard as a president to kind of act on the promises of the campaign, but also just, I mean, his speech, his basically anti-war speech, that really resonated to me. The fact that he was against the war in Iraq, I believe, early on.
And that was a huge point of distinction between him and Hillary Clinton, probably one of the biggest.
Well, why is it so hard when you step into the office of president to sort of act on your ideals?
I think it goes back to what we talked about a little bit, which is, what are you driven by and what are you afraid of? And if you are concerned for whether or not you can get reelected, who's going to fund that reelection effort, who's going to fund the presidential library and your legacy that will follow. There have been some documented examples around how he promised to crack down on big pharma, but when push came to shove, his Department of Justice campaign funding was threatened, and they chose not to take action, even when they had a very, very strong case to make. This was with regard to the opioid crisis in the country. And this just goes back to the heart of why it's so essential that we have leaders who have courage and who are focused on doing what we elect them to do.
And who are resistant to the love of money and power.
Yes.
It's hard.
And we are human. We are fallible. We are flawed by nature. And I'll go into kind of the next one you asked about, Trump, the weakness side, and the lessons that I hope have been learned from 2016 for him and his team is you have to be in a position where you are surrounding yourselves with other people of courage who aren't just thinking about their next political job or their next job getting a cable news contract or looking for fame themselves or looking at how they can monetize their position for their whatever their next financial interest might be, but people of courage who know what they're up against to really seriously clean house across the federal government and the corruption and rot that is so deeply entrenched in order to truly be effective. And if he is reelected, that is my hope, that he sees that he's learned from what went wrong in 2016, that, he went in, with a largely non-interventionist, more focused on peace agenda. And yet he surrounded himself with people who are at the heart of the warmongers in Washington and who directly went against the policies that he advocated for. On the strength side, I think it's easy to point out because it's also what has caused him to be so attacked in ways that we haven't seen before, certainly not in my lifetime, by the Democrats, by the Biden administration, not only in now, but something that started back in 2016 when he was a candidate. He's a guy who, by all measures has been successful in his own life. And because of that, he's not coming in with this desire to please Washington that many other politicians have. And because he is so willing to challenge the quote unquote norms, and these are not norms that serve the interests of the American people, these are norms that serve the interests of the most powerful, he is a direct threat. And so that attitude and that mindset of not coming in with the kind of caution that too many politicians come in with, of wanting to be the popular one at the parties or whatever it is that they want, that is the strength that he brings.